Welcome to the Vandy Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Lee. Our guest today, George Plaster. This episode is presented by the Well Coffee House, a Nashville area coffee house that provides fresh roast coffee, along with house-made pastries, breakfast, and lunch offerings. There are 4 locations to serve you in the Nashville area. Those are Brentwood, Green Hills, downtown, and Bellevue. More information can be found at wellcoffeehouse.org. The Well Coffee House, where coffee changes lives. Vanderbilt lost its most recent basketball game. That was to Florida on Saturday night at Memorial Gym. Final score in that one, 61-55. Vandy remains the only winless team in the SEC and extended its SEC record losing streak for regular season games in the process. The guest line, presented by Boll & Branch, started by Vanderbilt graduates Scott and Missy Tannen. I've slept on Boll & Branch sheets for years and just love them. They're fair trade certified, so they're made under safe conditions by men and women treated and paid fairly. Try them for a month. You can return them for free, but you won't want to. Once you get the sheets, try the mattress. That was voted the best mattress of 2018. Go to bollandbranch.com. That is spelled B-O-L-L. Enter the promo code Vandy and get $50 off your first set of sheets. George Plaster joins us now from Nashville Sports Radio. George, how have you been? Hope you enjoyed your Super Bowl. Hope life is well with you.
Chris, I did enjoy the Super Bowl. The ending kind of surprised me. There was a point where I thought San Francisco was going to win the game, and I think they were one play away from winning it. If they had held the Chiefs on that 3rd and 15 instead of giving up a 54-yard bomb, I think they'd be your world champions today.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I can't help but be happy, A, for Andy Reid, who everybody seems to like, and B, for that fan base, because, man, there aren't many fan bases that have packed stadiums and delivered the level of decibels that one has over, say, the past 50 years. And frankly, in that time, they've had some good teams, but in terms of hardware, not much to show for it.
No, they've had a lot of playoff heartache over the years. I can remember one of their Marty Schottenheimer teams that was a 1 seed that Indianapolis beat at Arrowhead. And I'm kind of with you. Their fans are terrific. They're one of the probably top 5 fan bases in the NFL as far as their support of their team. So good for them.
Well, let's talk Vandy. I really don't know where to start. I seem like I say that a lot. I think this is like the 84th consecutive podcast that I've felt this way to begin. Let's start with basketball, I guess. They fight hard against Florida. I didn't really get to see it. I was at the baseball banquet. I'll say this about them. There's no quit.
No, and that's, if you're looking for positives, that is one. It may not show up this year in wins and losses, but it does speak to their character that they continue to fight because it would be easy at this point to give up. They know what the odds are. They're not stupid. They know that in any particular game that they play, that they probably don't have weapons that across. Sure, it pays off this year, but somewhere down the road, their willingness to continue to fight will show up and help them somewhere.
I did not think a week ago that they'd get one in conference play. I tend to think now, I think that they'll get one somewhere just because they seem to have adjusted to playing without Aaron Nesmith. Now, they're still not very good, and there's nothing much you can do with that. But they've gone from losing games by an average of 20 a night to, I guess, 7 or 8 the last 2 games against Florida and Kentucky teams that are probably going to be in the NCAA tournament. So it seems like they've made some sort of adjustment to at least be in games late. And I think if you're at that point, eventually the law of averages takes over and you get one somewhere.
Well, you kind of hope that's the way it'll be. Who knows? I tend to agree with you that this kind of effort at some point will catch somebody on a bad day and they'll end up getting a win. I was really impressed with a lot of what I saw at Kentucky. I thought they played very well for about 32 minutes. Then they made some dumb mistakes. Um, I guess one of the reasons I couldn't be a coach is when a player, steps out of bounds, not realizing how close they are to the end line. That would just absolutely drive me crazy, because coaches don't ask for a lot from their players, but know where the hell you are on the court. That's one that would just absolutely send me into orbit.
They did that against somebody earlier this year. I want to say 3, maybe 4 times in a game. And I'd never seen that before.
Well, you see it from time to time. I saw it on Saturday in a game and had to laugh. I was like, well, they're not the only team that does this. Um, I don't know. Players are a lot more talented. There's an athletic ability that's undeniable out there. But at times there's also the other factor, which is, understanding all the situations of a game, time, score, clock, whatever, where you are on the court, that sometimes you're not sure that this modern age of player really knows the way the players of 30, 40 years ago did.
George, I'm kind of out of knowing what to say. And with that, we are going to go to our old standby, the mailbag, if that's cool with you.
The lightning round.
The lightning round. It's the
Let's
mailbag has
do it.
been very good to us. Some might say very, very good to us. But anyway, the mailbag is sponsored by Vanderbilt fan Josh Minton, an independent insurance agent operating out of Brentwood. If you're looking for a one-stop shop to take care of your insurance needs, Josh has you covered. Call him today at 615-933-1979. Email him at josh@hqinsurance.com. Follow him on Twitter at Joshua Minton HQ or Facebook.com/Shady Minton HQ. He's my insurance agent. Give him a try. Tell him you heard about it here. Now, let me preface this question with the fact that I don't know the identity of the person who asked it. But he says, for you, and the screen name here is Top Shelf VU. He says, when we were sophomores at BGA, could you have ever imagined the depths to which Vandy football and basketball have sunk?
Well, I guess the better question is, could you imagine the level the BGA sunk to let me in? To answer his question, no. In particular, the basketball. The basketball is a real heartache to watch, because no matter how bad football was, there was always well, here comes basketball, it'll be a lot better. And to see it reach what it's reached is really sad. They had a reunion over the weekend of the '93 SEC title team, and mostly through hiring Willie Donick, I got to know virtually all of that team pretty well. And, those were some really good times. That was about as team-oriented a team as you could find. And Memorial Gym was a rocking place back during that time. Maybe Saturday when they saw what they saw.
You are very close with a lot of basketball alums. You were, I'd say, squarely in the middle of that family. I cannot imagine the texts and the phone calls you get, because I cannot imagine that bunch is pleased. It is a proud bunch. I think it's a bunch that represents the school well, and I think they've got to be apoplectic about what they are seeing. And again, not Jerry Stackhouse's fault. It's just the situation right now. But I think the questioner nailed it. I just don't think anybody ever dreamed you'd see something like this.
Well, you're right about one thing. I do get a lot of that. I was in a unique position. Back in the '80s, Coach Newton made me their color analyst on the radio broadcast, and that's really a unique deal where I was only about 4 years older than the players, and much more immature. And so I've kept a lot of friendships, first of all, with the 80s group, what I'll call the Will Purdue group. And we all get together, or at least we try to, 2 or 3 times a year. One of the most emotional of those crazy dinners was a couple of years ago. We were all getting together. Will was playing in the Vinny, which he plays in a lot as one of the celebs, and we got together that night, for one of what we thought would be a raucous occasion. And I get the phone call at dinner saying that Coach Newton had passed away. Nancy, his wife, was nice enough to let me know that. And, that was pretty emotional because those guys really loved Coach Newton. And we kind of did a little toast to him at dinner. And then, like I said, with the 90s group, I had just hired Willie over at WTN, which was in bankruptcy at the time. He didn't get rich off of that. So I got to know a lot of his teammates. When Eddie left, a lot of the teammates were really angry because they felt like they knew why Eddie had gone. He was in a huge feud with Paul Houlihan and finally just said, screw it, I'm out of here. I was thrilled. I got a chance to have breakfast with a bunch of them Saturday, including Coach Fogler, and I was thrilled to hear that he got a thunderous ovation at halftime when they brought all those guys out there.
Next one, and I've already given my answer. I'll let you give yours. Mr. Vandy says, do either of you think the men's basketball team will win a conference game?
A week ago, I would have said, no, there's nothing there to make you think that. I guess I've come off of that a little bit. I'm very impressed by what I saw at Kentucky. They took it to a new level that we had not seen. Dessou was terrific in that game. And then they followed it up with a game where they clearly weren't going to beat Florida, but just kept hanging around and hanging around. And at some point, you hope that gets rewarded. So I'll kind of go with you and say, yeah, I think they may get one.
In trying to find bright spots, it's not easy. I think Dessou's play obviously has been one. Now, there's been some up and down to that. It seems like it's an every other game thing with him. But my theory has always been with freshmen, you kind of take any good as a very good sign because a lot of times you don't get much out of them. I think the fact that he has flashed big upside at times, I thought in the Kentucky game, he may have been the best player on the floor that night. And so that's something. I think they get offense out of Pippen. Again, I look at the way they've developed players. I think he can coach. Again, the question's recruiting. We won't belabor that point because I think everybody knows how we think on that. But I think in terms of do the players buy into what he's doing? It seems they do. Does he make players better? It seems he does. Do they like him? I hear they do. So at least at this point, those are things that you can look on as positives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit it right earlier where they seem to have adjusted about as good as they can to playing without Aaron Nesmith. This whole thing now comes down to this staff's ability to recruit and nothing more, nothing less. Because this team's not going to do a lot of winning, and everybody knows that. And so now all of the focus after the Aaron Nesmith injury is about what they're doing in recruiting. And right now it doesn't seem very good. And that's what's got people down. That's what's got them worried about how much longer is this going to go on.
Well, and to be blunt, I don't know if that's something he really wants to do.
Well, I hear that from time to time, but the fact of the matter is that's what college basketball is all about. It's your ability to recruit. Coaches can make a difference in certain situations and up to a certain point, but then there comes a point where talent just simply takes over, and it's all about recruiting, period.
Okay, here's the $1,000,000 question. This from 9 Sarah Dove. Rate the Turner hire. I presume he does not mean Todd Turner.
Or Ted Turner.
or Josh Turner or Jacob Turner or the third baseman for the Dodgers whose name is escaping me. But anyway,
Justin Turner.
Justin Turner. I don't know why he's the most prominent
Yeah.
of the Turners, but anyway, I'll let you have at it here.
Okay, I'll call it an incomplete because we don't really know a lot at this point. The decision to retain Derek Mason has been very unpopular. I don't really think it was his decision, but I can't prove that. The decision to hire Jerry Stackhouse has met with sort of mixed reviews. I think the guy can coach. Don't know what to think about recruiting. I think that's a huge question mark. And to be honest, Stackhouse hasn't really gotten out in this community to any great extent, so people don't know him. So the basketball thing's very iffy. We really don't know what to think about the plans he's putting together as far as stadium improvements, facilities improvements. The grade would certainly go up considerably if we found out that the board of trustees gives him some real resources to do some things. And I'm not talking about improving plants, beautification. I'm talking about real bricks and mortar kind of stuff. I'm a little disturbed about the deal where he didn't show up at either the baseball banquet or the honoring of the '93 title team. I don't get that. Don't understand it. That's part of an athletic director's job. And it was two big positives. The celebration of the national title team in baseball and the celebrating of bringing back an SEC title team. Malcolm Turner should have been there. Don't know why he wasn't there. Don't really care. Just know that's not a good look at all.
I guess this is the follow-up to that. Natchez T. Ray says, is it true that it is darkest before dawn?
Wow. We're going to get philosophical here, huh?
I think next week's podcast, I think this week's is going to be probably shorter than most of the ones we do, just because I think we're both kind of at a loss of what to say. It's been a very interesting week behind the scenes, to say the least. But I think next week's has the potential to be very interesting.
Well, it kind of depends on what the board decides. If they decide that the plan that gets presented to them isn't worthy of their taking it up and running with it, that's a real downer. I mean, right now, Vanderbilt fans have a national title caliber baseball team to root for, and the rest of it's pretty depressing. And so a lot of focus has now shifted to what this board of trust is going to do with this strategic plan that Malcolm Turner has been talking about for months. And, it's kind of come down to something good has to come out of that. Something really with some meat on the bone that gives a Vanderbilt fan a reason to say, okay, we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and the concern I have is I'm just not hearing a lot of indication that that's coming.
No, if it turns out to be much ado about nothing, then I think you can expect a lot of chaos in the weeks to come after that. as people ponder, what does this mean? What's the future? Something good's got to come out of this.
I've got nothing left. Do we have another topic to hit or Braves to talk or anything of that sort?
No, I don't think so. I guess your hope is that this was quality, not quantity.
Well,
I
and
doubt it was.
it's look. Sometimes you don't do a short podcast out of lack of information. Sometimes you do a short podcast out of knowing what to do with it and what to say next. And I think that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not a real pretty look right now. I don't want to go any farther with what I got into about Malcolm Turner not showing up for either the baseball banquet or the celebration of the '93 SEC title team. Although I will say I am shocked and bewildered by that decision. If you're an athletic director, you have to be there, period.
I think a lot of people felt that way. That did not sit well. I don't think, frankly, at either event. And there's been no explanation for it.
No, and whether there is or not, I just don't think it's a very good look.
No, I think that's fair. George, I will be on your show today. I think is 2:20 what we settled on there.
Yeah.
Okay. Looking forward to that. Tell people about your show, where they can find it, where they can follow your Twitter handles, where they can listen to it online, anything and everything that you would like to promote.
Yeah, I'm the show that Chris is talking about. I'm on 560 AM WNSR, 95.9 on the FM dial. They also have the app at Nashville Sports Radio, so that even if you lose the signal somewhere, you flip on the app and it comes in clear as a bell, whether you're in Franklin or Baghdad. And let me say this, you'll get a kick out of this. I'm now over 2,000 followers on Twitter at George Plaster TN. This is a big moment.
The question I had is, do you have listeners in Baghdad?
I don't have any verification of any.
But you don't know that it's not possible either. That's what I hear you saying.
No, I mean, when you say all precincts are reporting in, we really don't know.
Do you think Baghdad Bob would be a fan if he's still around?
God, I hope not.
This is where we are. And with that, I will end the podcast. George, thanks for joining me, and I look forward to being on your show today.
Chris, same here. Appreciate it as always.
He is George Plaster. I'm Chris Lee, the host of the Vandy Sports Podcast. Thank you for listening. We'll have several more episodes coming later this week.